Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Jerry Brazie Podcast. I am Jerry Brazie. Happy to be here with you guys again. And I have three subjects I want to talk about today. And I think that one of them in particular, here to start, you guys probably many of you aren't going to like. I think many of you probably will agree with me. And I'll be interested to see what kind of feedback I get on this, because I am sure that this is going to piss some people off, mostly people whose life are ruled by their emotions rather than the reality that is, and that their perspective on life is flawed. I could not disagree more with what we're going to talk about, this topic next, this subject, and I'm excited to get into it because I have been inundated with this particular song that we're going to listen to. It has swept the nation, it appears, and many of the people are redoing this song, talking about it is the men's national anthem. And I could not disagree more. And I think that this song is reflective and indicative of a greater problem we have as men in the United States, in the West in particular, in the United States specifically, and on the coasts, probably more than anywhere. And I want to go through this song step by step. I'm going to stop it during the parts that piss me off. I've listened to it a couple of times now. It's a good song. It's got a good melody, good tune. He did a thing with Darius Rucker on it. I think it's been viewed like 100 million times. They did the song, or they're about to do the song at the Grand Ole Opry here in Nashville, Tennessee. And so good for them. Good for them for their success. Good for the song. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for anybody that has success. But the problem is you read through the comments, and probably 30% of the comments are what I'm going to talk about, and 70% of the comments are this weak men, soft approach to what it is to even be a man, more looking at being a man through the perspective of a woman, which does nobody any good, any more than getting a man's perspective on a woman is what it means to be a woman. And so I think that the age of the rapper, the way the song has been received, was perfect for the generation out there that has been demasculated, in my opinion, and doesn't truly know what it is to be a man. And I thought, all right, let's blow things up. Let's get this Jerry Brazie podcast started, and let's go through this song. It's called by a guy named Dax, a rapper named Dax. Good dude, seems to be positive, got a fairly good influence, it appears. I don't know much about him, to be honest, other than I'm being inundated on social media with this song. It's called To Be a Man. If you haven't heard it, stay with me here, because I'm going to be stopping and commenting during it, simply because I already recorded this once and tried to go through the whole song and sit here. It's just too hard for me to do. So I want to go through the song and comment along the way. Here we go.
I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there, right? I can't even get past the first 10 seconds, 15 seconds. It comes in, you get the gist. You guys listening, instead of watching this, there's a guy sitting in his car crying. Grown man, 45, 50 years old, sitting in his car out front of his house crying. Ostensibly, the take here is that the life has gotten to him and the pressure's too much, and he's sitting in the car all alone crying because he can't go in and cry because his family would see it. The argument that I'd have, of course, if that is the intention of this particular part of the song, is why he's crying in the first place. And this isn't one of these men shouldn't cry things, although I think men should cry in very specific places at very specific times. But it is more about the perception that if a man has to cry, and that a man has these emotions and he's lost and he has to do them on his own, and he has to come inside and be something else. And I'm saying that you should not be something else. You should be the same thing in the car, which is strong enough to walk in and do what this guy's about to do right here. Because if the day is so hard for you that you feel inclined to sit in the car and cry prior to walking in and have a little thing like what's about to happen in this video happen, and you're not strong enough, that's not enough impetus for you to work, then Again, the problem is in the messaging. Watch this.
Like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's not something to be derogatory about. That's not something to talk down about. That's exactly what it's like. It's not about how we feel as men. It is about what we provide, because the essence of being a man is to provide. That's what we are here for. That I am fortunate enough to have been able to sacrifice and work 15 to 18 hours a day for 15 or 20 years, growing my companies like I did from nothing, coming from nothing myself. I was able to sacrifice so that my family has a better life. I'm a man. I don't need to get that adulation. I don't need that pat on the back, right? I'm the strong one. Everybody in the family plays a part. My job is to be the father. My job is to be the man, to be the strong one, to come with it, to provide the way that I should. That doesn't mean that you don't cry, but it means that you don't cry at the drop of the hat. That doesn't mean, I don't need flowers. These videos everywhere about men only get flowers at they're playing this song with a caption that says men only should play, or men only get flowers at their funeral. I don't even need them at my funeral. It'd be ridiculous to send me flowers. It would make no sense. That would be nonsensical. I don't know why someone would think about doing that, but the video's been viewed 50 million times, the one where people talking about this is the male national anthem and men only get flowers at their funeral. Perfect. You want to get me flowers at my funeral, knock yourself out. I could care less, but don't be sending me flowers any other time, because me and any other man who takes his responsibilities seriously would laugh at that. It would be nonsensical. It would make no sense. It would be not something that any of us would want. I'd be embarrassed if my wife got me flowers. I'd be embarrassed if somebody ever sent me flowers. Why in the hell would I want that? And why would any other man? Because we are not women. We don't look for those sorts of things. That's not what we want. Nor should it be something that we look for. So if you're a man and that's something that you look for, I don't know. I think your head's not on straight. But I understand why you think that way, because society is pushing us to be something that we're not. There is a complete demasculation of society, and I think this song is reflective of what that expectation is. Let's keep going here. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home. Yes, that's right. Fantastic. That's great. I endorse that 100%. That's not a negative. That's a positive.
Yeah, I know this life can really beat you down. You wanna scream, but you won't make a sound. Got so much weight that you've been holding.
Yeah, so we're all just gonna go drink.
Emotion as a man that goes unspoken. Now we can't cry when life gets hard.
No, you can't cry when life gets hard, because when life gets hard, someone has to lead. Somebody has to be out front. We are built as men to, when it gets hard, we do better. We excel. We go faster. We're stronger. We do better when it gets ugly. I'm not saying women can't do it. This is a song about men. So I'm not going to do every one of these and say, oh, no, women can be strong too. If that's your inclination in the comments to comment that, that's great. Do that. But I'm telling you right now, I get that women have a hard time and women are capable of surviving on their own. Fine, whatever. This isn't about that. I'm talking specifically about men. We can't cry when life gets hard. Unconditional loves for women, children, and he says dogs. That's right, because life is hard. See, life doesn't get hard. Life is hard. The world's messed up. 100 years ago, people are having 9 children so that they have 6 to work the fields because they'd lose 3. What did life look like only 200 years ago? See, this is what's broken. I get asked all the time about success and how do I get rich and what do I do, Jerry, and I've said this a million times on these podcasts. What do I do to find success and to get out of where I am and move forward? And I hate my job and I hate what I'm doing. And I was like, I want things to be easier. I want it to be easier on my family. I want it to be easier on me. And I'm like, life is not easy. Life is hard. Life is brutal. Life will beat you down. It is only because you live. You were born in a time that is the single best absolute time in the last 5,000 years of world history to have been born. You are fortunate. Not born 100 years ago, born 50 years ago. Any time in the late 20th to 21st century that you were born into, you are the most fortunate people of the 100-odd billion people that have lived on the planet. And yet, I promise you, we have more problems today, personally, people-wide, with our opinions, the way we conduct ourselves, the life we go through, our expectations. Far more. We have far more problems than generations that came before us. We have far more problems than people 200 years ago, who, when the baby died, it would be died stillborn, or maybe it died in its first year because of some dreaded disease killed the thing, and they would have to bury the thing and get up the next morning and go to work. The fields have to be tilled. The house has to be taken care of. The food has to be cooked, because otherwise you starve. There's no fast food. There's no phone calls to make. So there's no phone calls to make to bring you food, I should say. So the expectation that everybody wants, or everybody has, that life should somehow be easy it's a non-starter. You're starting from the wrong spot. And this is where life's got messed up, particularly if you're born in the 90s or later. Life is messed up because the softness of your life is your expectation of what what life should be. And that's just not reality, because life is a bitch and it will bite you time and time and time again. The expectation should be misery. And then you learn to account for and deal with and live in that misery. Imagine if you had to go every day and throw a spear at something and drag it back to the cave to eat, or you and your family don't eat. You want to know about tough. You want to know about hard, right? Again, let's go back 100 years and anybody tried to survive in that world. So your expectations are all messed up. You should be excelling because life is so easy, not have songs like this talking about it's so much harder to be a man today. It's easy to be a man compared to 50 years ago. 50 years ago, 90% of the planet was in poverty. Now it's something like 10%. Okay? 90% of the planet in the 1970s had trouble finding food. Now it's 10%. The numbers have changed. It's just incredible. It's unimaginable what we have done in the last 50 years. But you would think today that every problem that's ever happened is happening today. And in reality, we have it better today than we ever have. We're making up excuses to make ourselves feel better. But to be a man, not crying when life gets hard, that's called leadership. That's what we should be doing.
Unconditional love for women, children, and dogs. We know that we just have to play our parts, and don't nobody give a damn about our broken hearts. Yeah, as a man, we gotta pave our way. Our only function is to work and slave.
Look at that. Our only function is to work and slave. I'm going to tell you a story. I was counseling an entrepreneur years and years ago. It's been 20 years ago. And he came to me and he was doing development. And he said, Jerry, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. We were at lunch. He invited me to lunch. And across the table, he starts to get tears in his eyes because he was out of options for this development that he was doing. It's about 2006, give or take. And he was really struggling. And so he wanted some advice on where he thought he should go next. He was going to quit. I don't think I can do it anymore. And I'd known him for a long time, and he had children that were young, just like my kids were, and I knew who they were, and he had a daughter. And he asked me, again, how do you deal with it when it's so ugly? How do you deal with it? It's just coming at me from every direction. And I keep it real simple, folks, when it comes to particularly pushing through to try to find that success, because it's not easy. Like I just said, life is not easy. And my expectation is that life's not easy. But let me tell you what I told him. I said, I'll tell you what I do. And you can do the same thing if you want. I go home when it's ugly. Let's say in early 2004, I had a payroll of $200,000 due. This happened to me multiple times when I was just starting my company. And it was Friday night, and payroll was due on Monday, and I had no money. You don't talk about stress. Now, everything I had built over the course of 6 years at that point, gone in an instant because I didn't have any money. You'll try, how fast do you think that weekend went? Knowing that come Monday, I have to find an option to make this work, to get us through. That happened multiple times in the early days. My companies grew very quick. I was doing millions of dollars within $4 million the first year and $8 million the second year and $12 million the third year. The growth was exponential. And dealing with that, I didn't know how to deal with that. meaning I didn't know how to manage it. So I ran into these roadblocks. So I'd been there. As high a stress as you can have in business, I've been there multiple times, as a matter of fact, over the years, just up and down, up and down. That's the nature of business. So I said to him what I do, which is when it gets ugly, and I mean ugly, stress that a normal person going through life can't imagine, you have to find some way to stay grounded. You have to find that spot, that impetus, that inspiration that you need to go out and continue to persevere. You cannot turtle. You cannot sit in the car and cry. You can't curl up into a ball and do nothing. You can't quit. So what I did, I found that inspiration. My son was born in 98. My daughter was born, or 97, excuse me. Daughter was born in 99. And so here I am sitting in 2004, and I had another son in 2001. And here I was, and I would go home, and the writing was on the wall, and the end was coming, and I was out of options. And I would go upstairs to their bedroom, and my daughter's room just happened to be the first room on the right-hand side, and I would open the door, and her whole room was pink, and it was nothing but girly. It was just fantastic. It was everything that I wanted to give her, to give my children, as someone who came from nothing and achieved so much. So in my head, my idea of success was passing on to my children the things that I didn't have. It didn't matter what happened to me. It didn't matter how I felt about it. My job as a man, to me, was to provide for my children in such a way, regardless of what I had to do. No matter the sacrifice I had to make, my wife and my children were going to have a better life than I had. It didn't matter about me. That's the essence. That's what being a man is about. And I would look at my daughter. She'd be asleep, right-hand side. She's 6 years old at this point. Just young, little, worshiped her daddy. Daddy, to this day, she's daddy's girl. And I would look at her, and in my head, and this is what I told him across the table, I said, I want you to go home. I want you to open the door to her bedroom. When you're ready to quit, when you're ready to hand it all in, when you're ready to say to the world, I'm done, I give up, it's too much, I can't take anymore. I want you to open that door, and I want you to wake your 6-year-old daughter up, and I want you to tell her she can't have the roof over her head anymore that she has. She can't go to the school that she's been going to. Right? We can't drive the car that we have. You're not going to be able to eat the same foods that you've been eating. You're not going to have the roof over your head because daddy can't do it anymore. Daddy's giving up. And because daddy's giving up, you babies, life is going to change. He looked at me, crying, tears coming out of his eyes. He understood immediately what I was telling him. It's not about us. It's not about how we feel. And success in life at any level is not about how we feel. It's about what you can persevere, what you can put up with, what you can take. And you got to find that inspiration, and you have to then chase that down and use it every day to get through. Maybe it's just life generally. Work at McDonald's with a 6-year-old daughter at home. I don't care what the inspiration is. I don't care where you find it. I care that you use it and that you understand that responsibility as a man, the one that you have, is to make those babies' lives better. It is an honor for me to have slaved for my children and my wife. It is an honor for me to have sacrificed the way that I did. I did very well by them after coming from nothing. And there is nothing more rewarding in my life to have been able to persevere, failing massively, but succeeding the same 180 degrees, the opposite direction. Nothing more important to me, nothing I'm more proud of than the years I spent working 15 to 18-hour days. And if you can talk to my wife, and she will tell you 15 to 18-hour days for 15 plus years to grow companies, to provide for my family at a level and a type that would have been unimaginable to me as a child. And that was my honor. I am proud to have been able to work and slave for my family, regardless of what happened to me, to provide for them.
There's no respect for you if you ain't paid. You're disregarded as a human and you can't complain. And if you ever make it up and actually reach that place and find a woman that you love and give her your last name, you'll feel the things that you provide is only why she stays. And when you try to explain I can't help.
Yeah, again, here, it just, every part of this song, I couldn't disagree more. I met my wife. I was never going to have children. The life I had as a child wasn't anywhere near perfect. I'm not complaining. It's reality. 8 brothers and sisters, and stole food as a kid. I have great memories as a child, but I have a lot of really bad memories as a child. We don't need to get into it. Everybody has their issues. But um, for me, because of that, I wasn't going to have children. And when I was 24 or 5 years old, I was working at a messenger company, a delivery company. I was running it actually, and I met what would turn out to be my wife. And this 24, 25-year-old pissed off human being that was just going through life raging, who was never going to have children. I had older brothers and sisters, and I saw all the mistakes that can be made, and I didn't want any part of that. Met somebody who just wanted to be a mama. That's all they wanted. And my mother was fantastic, unimaginable life. My mother had 9 kids. She had 6 kids when she was 22 years old. She brought home her infant with a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 at home. Cloth diapers, poor, no money. You can imagine. 7 years later, I show up. So I have a little brother and a little sister. Not easy by far, and perspective-wise, just other world difficult. Slept every other day for 10 years to take care of all of that. And so for me, I had this very strong mother. She was a strict disciplinarian, but she was very strong, and I always respected her. So I knew I was sure I couldn't find somebody just like that, somebody who just wanted to be a mama and stay home. And here I found it, fell into my lap where I was working. I'm happy to say 27 years later, here we are. And she has been the biggest supporter of mine through what has been very difficult. So I suppose that if you find somebody to take your name and at the end of the day, you don't provide for them and they ditch you, you found the wrong person. That's on you. That's not on them for behaving like that. The responsibility as the man is always on you. It's your fault if you don't find somebody. But to say that somebody doesn't exist, I can count 5 people right now that I know that have been married 20 years that are my age. I'll be 27 years come August. I didn't get married till I was 28 years old. So it can be done. It takes work. It takes planning. Those early days when you learn to work together, man, it can get ugly, and you have to persevere, and you got to find patience, and somehow you fight through the tough times, and then you enjoy the good times. But if the expectation from her is that you are only a provider and you don't pick up on that and do something about it, it's on you. Right? You're responsible for your behavior. She's responsible for hers. But to say that that is all that we are and that's all you can find, it's ridiculous. In those early days, in particular when I was working all of those hours, my wife was nothing but supportive. We comment all the time about how difficult or how men are perceived, particularly or portrayed, I should say, particularly on television. And it's always the man, I got to go work, I got to do this. And the wife is the one slaving at home. And how dare you leave again? And I got to go back to work and I got to provide. And you're an a-hole because you're going to work. And all you do is work and you don't care about the family. That's just crazy pressure, right? It's unnecessary. There's no place for that. My wife who never said a word like that through all of the things I was building, never said that. In fact, quite the opposite. What she did, to her credit, was she would pack the kids up when they were little. She knew I was having a tough time. She knew I was fighting and struggling and scratching for everything we could get to give us a better life. And she would load the kids up in the truck. She would put their bikes in the back. And she'd come down to my office. This is 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. I'm at work, right? I'm an hour 12. I got 3, 4 more hours to go. And she'd bring a little picnic lunch, make some sandwiches, things of that nature, right? And we'd sit out front of my office and we'd have this little picnic. And then the kids would get out on their bikes and they would ride around in circles. And I'd get to sit there and watch them ride around in circles. You want to talk about inspiration? You want to talk about winding the battery up, powering it back up? You want to talk about, hey, you got to go. I got work to do because I need to go crush the planet because of these little babies and what I just got to watch, which was children being happy and having a good time with their mom and dad while they rode bikes in the middle of a parking lot. It seems simple, but it meant so much to me at that point in my life. She'd pack everything back up and give me a kiss, and the kids would say, bye, Daddy, and off they would go. And I'd go back in loaded for bear. Now, I wanted to go home. I wanted to be with the kids. But, man, I was ready to go continue doing what I was doing, and nothing was going to stop me because those children and my wife, who were such good people, were going to have everything I could provide for them, no matter what it took. And they were playing a part in that. So it's about who you find and whether or not you can make that relationship be what it needs to be for both sides so that it works. Both sides are supporting. That means that one side understands what their job is and the other side understands what their job is. And then you meet in the middle. Now, here's the thing. For me, and this goes to you, men, I had no place in the middle. I only had work and I had home. There's no bars. There's no stopping off anywhere else. In those days, there was no doing anything else. I would work all day and then I would go referee basketball games at night to pay the bills. We had just started the company. It was early in the day. I had 3 kids at home. The company wasn't making money. It was being really successful. It had done huge revenue, but we were struggling to figure out how to make money. It was tough. So I didn't pay myself. So 4 nights a week and all day on Saturday, Sunday, I'd go referee basketball games to pay the bills, to keep the lights on. I remember paying $28 towards an electric bill that was like $100, but I had to send them something to keep the lights on. And so I would go at night and then I would go referee until 11 o'clock at night, and I'd get back up, drive home, get up at 5:30 in the morning, go back and do it all over again, willingly. No, it was the choice I made, and I wasn't going to be stopped doing it. And the support I got from my wife and my kids was extraordinary. Kids are little, they didn't understand what they did, but that inspiration to go achieve on their behalf was very strong. I use it to this day, but in those early days when I really need it, when I was feeling down or feeling beat up or stressed or whatever it was absolutely everything I needed was to watch my children eat a sandwich in a picnic setting on my front office door and then ride their bikes around in circles in the parking lot. Back to this.
Hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home.
And that would be correct. It's not about how we feel. So give it up. It's not. It doesn't matter. When you have some expectation that your feelings are going to matter in the context of your family and what you're doing to provide, then your head's in the wrong spot. You got to change that up. You're the man of the house. Your job is to provide, period. That's what makes us who we are. That's what builds us into who we are. That's the essence of what it is to be who we are. This expectation, this effeminization of man in the current setting in the world today is upside down. It's not who you were born to be. It's not where we come from. So your expectation that your feelings need to be acknowledged, that's a loser's game. I don't care whether or not you disagree with me. It's a loser's game. It will get you nowhere. You will get the results of that will be exactly what you would expect them to be, which will be broken marriages, broken families, shallow experiences. You're going to be nothing but have nothing but anxiety and stress, and your life is going to be infinitely more difficult unless you do exactly the opposite and grab hold of it by the neck and wrestle it to the ground and beat it to a pulp and understand what your nature is. Your nature is, I've always said, I've not always said, I've always said this saying, which is, it is better to be a warrior in a garden. I think Joe Rogan says this all the time. Better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. You want to be that warrior in the garden, capable of such destruction. Men are capable of absolute destruction. In my current setting, 242 pounds, 55 years old, all of the maturity, all of the experience, right? 130 pounds of muscle. I'm a machine. The destruction I could wrought on those around me is an infinite. If I get shot and stopped, I don't know how many bullets it would take to put me down. The point being is you have to be capable of that. But what it is to be a man is to control that. What it is to be capable of that and to channel that into places where then you get a return for that. That's what it is to be a man. That's what we're taught. We should be taught what being a boy is. We should be taught what being a man is, what it is to succeed and have success in life. That is to survive. It doesn't matter about being rich. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being controlled and to survive and to give yourself a chance. Is to understand that you want to be a warrior in a garden rather than a gardener in a war. And you should be able to go to war. You should have the capability to go to war at any time. And the wars that you should fight to channel that energy are into your success and your family's success. And the sacrifice that you make should be the proudest achievement of your life, whether or not you succeed.
Don't give up, keep fighting. As a man, our sun is our horizon. And our father's actions play a role, and we end up like them. So they can't let us see them hurt, because we'll embody what they do and start a generational curse. No wonder most men are so depressed. All the things that they can't express, they go to war, get thrown on the shelf.
Again, it just repeats itself over and over again. Yeah, don't express. You don't need to. And when you do, it's going to get only worse. It won't get better. Find that person, find that one person, be it your wife, maybe it's a buddy that you can talk to, a priest, right? Somebody, a mentor. Find somebody you can talk to. But generally exposing yourself to emotions and crying and those kind of and carrying on, it's just not reality. It's not the way that the world works. It hasn't worked for 5,000 years. And just because we've reached some enlightened period where we have the best world imaginable and yet we have the most problems, it just doesn't work. That's not the process. Okay? The expectation is life is hard. You learn to live inside of that expectation, and then you grow on top of it.
Then go back to war with their mental health. Then grab that bottle and ask for help. Try to pull themselves out of hell. Then fall back down and then realize that they're gonna have to do it themselves. It's the circle of life. As a man, you provide. They don't know what you're worth till the day that you die. And that's when they start crying. Then move on to a man to confide.
I'll just go back to what I said earlier about my wife and the family and choosing the right person. And if that's all they are to you, or if that's all that you are to them, then that's bad on you. That's your fault, plain and simple. The rest of this there are infinite numbers of us out here who have 180 degrees the opposite approach and the opposite experiences with our family and with our wives than what this song is talking about right here. So to accept this as a national anthem for men is it's a travesty if that's accepted. And the men who hear this and go, yeah, that's how I feel, and she doesn't ever listen to me, and I never get to express my feelings. Yes, that's right, because you got to learn to control those feelings. Expressing your feelings, and again, this is only about men, I'm not talking about women, but expressing for your feelings on a regular basis, that's what women do. That's how they cope. That's their dealing process. Ours is very different, and you try to change yours into theirs, you're in trouble. And again, back to this effeminization of men, it's only going to end up where we are now. This is not where we're supposed to be. We need more leaders. We need stronger men. We don't need more manly men. We need to teach men to be strong, and that is capable of destruction, but controlling it, not acting out on it. The last thing you want is effeminized men, because emotional men are going to act out. And when you are as vicious and as strong and as fast as men can be and as unfeeling monsters that we can become, it's only going to get ugly. It's only going to get worse. If you think that effeminate men are the answer to your male problem, you've got another thing coming. Because the last thing you want is me to be super emotional. The last thing you want for me is to act out. Because again, at 6'4" and 240 pounds, I'm gonna act out. But at 5'8" and 180 pounds, you're gonna act out. And it's going to be dreadful what we are capable of. So either we teach men to understand who they are and to control that, or we're going to have to deal with the consequences, and we are seeing it every single day, record crime, record divorce, record single families, all of it. We're seeing it all play out. And the perspective that this song has, teaching men what this song teaches, is not going to help. It's going to make it worse, I think.
That's why we feel we can't hide ourselves. We don't expect you to understand. We just hold.
Look at all these men just, oh, life is so hard.
What it's like to be human. It's a lonely road.
Yes, it is a lonely road. You're damn right it is.
About what we know.
And I don't care that you don't care,
It's not about how we feel, but what we provide.
because we shouldn't. That's right. That's the only thing that matters. What we provide inside that home, that's what matters, not how we feel.
It's not about how we feel, but what we provide inside that home. Inside that home.
There you go. That's the song. That's my take on it. Pretty strong. I get it. I know there'll be a lot of you that agree with me. I know that a lot of you are going to think I'm a complete Neanderthal, and that's fine too. I will put up my history. I'll put up the last 35, 40 years of my life as proof and an example of what a controlled man is capable of doing. Regardless of the outcome, I have failed spectacularly. I'm talking 6, 7-figure failures on a level that is unimaginable to most people. And I've succeeded massively on a level that is unimaginable to most people. I come from nothing, no education, no high school, no nothing. Never went to college. I learned everything on the fly. And I fought my way out of where I was to get where I am. If I had this perspective on life, I would have had no chance. None. Zero. I'll leave it at that. And y'all in the comments can tell me what you think and or yell so loud that I hear you outside my window. The other thing I want to talk about, and this has been coming up quite a bit, is, well, I got two things actually. This is going to be a little more fun. I don't know if any of you watched the All-Star game over the weekend. I did not, thankfully, because I don't watch the NBA anymore. And I'm happy to say that I don't watch the NBA anymore. I used to be a huge NBA fan. I played basketball till I was 38 years old. It's absolute one of the greatest things I love basketball so much. When I was 30 years old, I'd stand in my kitchen because I couldn't go play. I'd stand in my kitchen and bounce the basketball because I couldn't go play. It's raining outside. The gym was closed. It's midnight. Didn't matter. I would stand in my kitchen was my podcast room here is bigger than my kitchen. But I would stand in it and bounce the ball between my legs. I loved basketball. I would play basketball as much as I could. And I loved the NBA. With a passion, I loved the NBA. The funny story, in the early years, I was maybe 29 or 30, building my company, putting things together. And I was working these crazy hours, but I would get off on Wednesday night. I would take Wednesday night off. So I'd get home about 6:37, have dinner with the family. Most nights I would go home. 80% of the time I'd be home in time to put the kids to bed at 8:30, and I'd play with them and wrestle with them. And again, every night I would put my kids to bed and I'd get done wrestling with them. And I would ask them as I was turning off the light, what are you going to be when you grow up? And my kids would answer, whatever I want. And I'd say, how are you going to get there? And they would say, work hard and being smart. 80% of their life I spent with them at home, putting them to bed. And then I'd pick up and go right back to work and work till midnight or whenever and turn around and do it all over again. Many times, as I've said before, in the summertime, they would come down and see me at work. So the NBA though, this is in the 90s, was just fantastic coming off the 80s, Michael Jordan in the 90s. And cable was fairly new and something I couldn't necessarily afford, but we had cable and I would get the NBA package. And this is right when these packages started to come out. And I couldn't believe I could pay however much. I didn't have any money. We had trouble keeping the lights on sometimes, but boy, I found money to keep the lights on and pay for this NBA package. This was just 1 year I got it. And I can remember Wednesday, and I had it planned, they'd play 3 games. So I could watch 3 games in a row on Wednesday night. Kids go to bed, boom, I'm on the West Coast. I'm getting the late games finishing. And then I get multiple West Coast games, whatever I want. You could mix and match. And my wife will tell you that, the kids would go to bed. Would have eaten dinner. I sit down. I'm going to watch my games. I'll be asleep in 10 seconds and miss the whole night. And I bought this whole package and I never got to use it. But the point being, I'm a huge basketball fan. Well, in the last 4, 5, 6 years. I was a 20-plus year courtside ticket holder for the Portland Trailblazers. You never found a bigger fan than me. In the end, and over the last 5 to 8 years, the NBA has become unwatchable to me. I'm sad to say that. I no longer watch any part of it. I find no entertainment in it whatsoever. Like the rest of the world, it's become soft, too over officiated. There's no physicality to it. The players make too much money. Injuries can't happen, so they do everything they can to stop that. The players have too much power, so the whole game has become diluted. They make more money, but the league value continues to go up, but the ratings for television continue to go down. It's absolutely unwatchable. I think it was 5, 6 years ago, 17 of the top 100 shows, this was 7, 8 years ago, 17 of the top 100 shows for the year were NBA games. Last year it was 0. And in fact, all 100 were NFL games, as it turns out. So the NBA has become absolutely unwatchable to me. But this All-Star game and the dunk contest and the All-Star game itself just told me, it showed me that I was right in the way that I believe and I feel about the NBA and its unwatchability, as the NBA All-Star East, I believe it was, scored 204 points in a game. Now go back. I want you to go back and watch an NBA All-Star game. Just watch a cut of an NBA All-Star game circa 1988, circa 1994. Go back and watch those games. And you'll watch David Robinson, the Admiral for San Antonio Spurs, 7'1", 7'2", top 50 all-time greatest player, in the paint, playing defense. And you'll see Shaq, the animal that was Shaq, circa 1993, 4, 5, right? Coming down the lane with this big tomahawk windmill dunk, with the Admiral going up to try to block it and Shaq almost knocking him over. But the point being is Shaq's coming in hard and the Admiral standing in there, David Robinson, taking the hit. That's the way the game used to be played. It used to mean something. The players used to have meaning, not this mamby-pamby, half-played Olay defense, score at will, 200 three-pointers, put up, everybody laughing and happy. No, back in the day, the players didn't like each other. The game was what it was meant to be. You say hi at the beginning, you say bye at the end, and you fight in the middle. No fight. Players don't have fight anymore. Professional players don't have fight anymore, aside from hockey, maybe soccer. But basketball players, there's no fight. It's a soft game. It absolutely is. All of the players are soft, right? So there's no energy. There's no action. It's boring. That's my opinion. I can't watch it anymore. The All-Star game was absolutely the crowning achievement of, for me, the pinnacle of I was right and it's unwatchable. I don't know if you caught it. I don't know if you saw it. Very few did. The ratings are in the toilet, but it's become absolutely unwatchable. And to go back to the last segment talking about the song and men, you want to see what's wrong with men, watch the NBA. Because right there, that'll show you what's wrong with our society, and what we're crafting is easily recognizable in the NBA and the softness of which they play. All right, let's talk about success. I transfer over to this for just a minute, and it comes up all of the time. Dudes and not working is my note to myself. And dudes and not working or working the way that they should has to do with, I'm talking to a guy at my gym, and he's a good dude. And he's working hard, and he's got a job during the day and a job at night. During the day, he's a construction foreman, and he's working 5 nights a week at night until 11 o'clock at night, shutting the gym down, cleaning the toilets and cleaning the garbage and folding the towels. And my man's hardcore, 30 years old, hardcore, doing what he has to make it happen for him. He's talking to me one time in the sauna, and we're going back and forth having a conversation. He's a good kid. And I was happy that he asked me, and I was able to pass on a little bit of information that I had gleaned. He's about 30 years old, right, through my life and going through that. And he was feeling bad because his buddies would all go out and party on Friday night, and they were working just normal jobs during the day. But that wasn't enough for him. He wanted to get ahead. Some of them weren't even working or working part-time, playing video games all day. And I said to him, no. And he felt bad because he's sitting there folding towels and washing towels. And I was like, that's the problem. That's honorable work. Right? You're at work. You're pushing. You're doing everything you can to get to that next level. I promise you, if you put in those kind of hours working with that energy, if you have that work ethic, your chances of succeeding far outpace any of your buddies. And the world today, too many Young men in particular are trying to take what they see as the easy way out, that social media influencer. I'm going to make quick money by trading this or doing that or being online or any of these other things, right? And I'm just going to keep trying it until it works out, which it never does. Or I'm going to find this job. I only got to work 3 days a week, but I make enough money to support myself on 4 days a week or 2 days a week, or I'm going to work 2 10-hour days. And then you F off the rest of the week. And you're not, all the while you're talking about, and I hear this all of the time, the internet is full of this, all the while talking about these things you're going to do, what it takes to be a man, what it takes to be successful, and what it takes to get there, all the while you're not there. But socially, people listen to that. And this young man was listening to the men around him, the boys around him, telling him this, and he was feeling down about it. So this was my advice to him. This is my advice to everybody. Again, back to the original segment, life is hard. Life is difficult. But the way that you achieve in life is through work. That's the only way, is through hard work. I don't care if you're going to school, hard work. The harder you work, the better you're going to do. Now, look, if you're gifted and you're smart and you don't have to work so hard to get the same thing, it doesn't mean that the person who's not gifted, who has to work twice as hard as you, chances are he's going to do better. And for sure, chances are I would hire that person over the smarter person. I want the person who works hard and fails over the person who easily succeeds. It's just that simple, because the guy with a work ethic is far more valuable than the guy that doesn't have to put in the effort. So if this is you, and you're trying to get ahead and you're trying to get somewhere, understand that you got to stop paying attention to social media and people talking to you about passive income and how easy it is to, I work 3 days a week or the 4-hour work week or any of this other BS, because they're lying to you. These people who say you shouldn't own real estate, these people who say you shouldn't have debt, they're lying to you. That's the way you might have money when you're 70, but it's no way to get rich. It's no way to find success. It's no way to move up. It's the same as, and he's working by the hour, and he felt bad that he was working by the hour. And I said, that's madness to feel bad about working by the hour or working for a salary. That is work that you should be proud of. You are doing everything you can. You are gaining experience. You are filling that data center that is your brain, that hard drive that is your brain. You are filling it with everything you can find to move yourself ahead. For everything you can put into it that will benefit you down the road. You don't see it now, but it's absolute reality, because for sure what will happen is not putting in the effort equals zero. Not putting in any effort equals zero. So the more effort you put in, the better chance you have of getting ahead. It might be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. That's the nature of things. Nothing happens overnight. Success isn't found in a vacuum. It takes time. But when we see all these guys talking to us about we're suckers because we don't have 24 doors of apartments, and any deal smaller than that is stupid, or don't buy a house and you should only rent, or passive income is the only way to go, and if you're working for a living, you're a sucker. It's all BS. It's all lies. I know a billion millionaires. I know rich people left and right. I've been around them for the last 25, 30 years, and I can tell you that we all have one thing in common: freaking hard work. We know how to work. So you should too. That's the message I want to give to you and all you guys who think that you're a sucker for going to work. You should be proud of that. There's honor in working. I don't care if it's at McDonald's. I don't care if you're folding towels at a fitness store, at a gym, at Lifetime Fitness, or if you're the CEO of a company. It doesn't matter. You take pride in your work. There is honor in working, and there is honor in working and trying to get ahead. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise, because that's the only way. Doesn't mean that there's not 1 or 2 or 3 people out there who've gotten the easy route and got there. I'm telling you, though, for the majority of everyone, you have to suffer. You have to work. You have to sacrifice, and you have to push to get what you want, because life is hard. And unless you go take it by the neck and strangle the hell out of it and make it yours, it's going to beat you up. I appreciate you listening. Like, follow, and subscribe, please. And leave a comment. The algorithm loves it, and I answer them all. Beat me up. I'm sure people are going to have some comments on this one. I'd love to hear them all. And don't forget that those opportunities are everywhere, but you got to go get them and go for a walk.